Hello, viewers. Thank you for tuning in to Heavenly Sent People. I have a guest that's running a little behind, Sarah Gadd. She is a congressional candidate, 2020. I forgot the position she's running for. Nevertheless, she'll be here shortly, but just until she arrives, just want to tell you guys what my platform is. And so what I do is I provide this platform for youth. So often youth are shined upon in a negative light, especially in poverty-stricken areas. And I like to say that there are a couple diamonds in the rough. There are some kids out there that are really maneuvering through the hurdles and that are, you know, excelling. And as you see, I typically like to search abroad and bring them on. So I'm excited and grateful for the opportunity to be able to shine a different light up on the youth. And also I look for adults or organizations as such that's involved with the youth, or even people that I feel the youth should know. Resilient stories, people, you know, that didn't beat the odds, etc., etc., etc. So if you guys know any youth that you think would be a fit for the show, please reach out to me. You can find us on Facebook at Heavenly Sent Youth. I also have a website. From there, from the Heavenly Sent Youth Facebook page, you can access the website and you'll just get an overview of some of the things that we like to do. And let me just tell you how I started out with this organization. And so I have a 12-year-old son, and I thank God that I'm able to do a lot of things with him. I understand, you know, a lot of times parents really don't have the resources or the time to take part in many different activities. And so I'm blessed to be able to do just that with my son. And so with that being said, I generally congregate a couple of his friends, kids in the neighborhoods, etc., and just try to give them a peace of mind, if it makes sense, or even take them out their comfort zone. We do a variety of things. Case in point, I have a passion for horses, and so I'm grateful to be able to partner up with a horse ranch. I just met this young man who, a championship boxer, and he allowed me to bring some youth in to practice or to, you know, figure out if boxing was something for them, and just to broad. So my thing is to connect the youth with whatever it is that their heart desires by any means necessary. And when I say that, again, there aren't many resources in our neighborhood, and so I just thank God for giving me the opportunity to be able to connect and, you know, to connect with people. Case in point, a lady, she called me and asked me if I was interested in taking some youth tomorrow to a basketball game, and I'm like, of course. And so I thank her for reaching out to me to just be able to, again, give the kids something that they generally wouldn't be able to reach or touch. And so I'm excited about that tomorrow, and just all the people that I'm connected with. You know, I'll refrain from names for the sake of forgetting somebody. And so I've met a lot of instrumental people that has helped me connect the dots, and I've been in places with high people, and, you know, I'm just grateful. And I've learned in the midst of all this is to remain humble. You know, so often many people will want to be in the limelight and or forget about what the mission is. And for me, my mission, my thing is youth. And so anytime I'm able to connect with youth, you know, that's enough for me. That's how I'm able to do my work of gratitude. I see Pastor Tabron is on. Thank you, Pastor. I had Pastor on a while ago. I think last year. And I thank him because Pastor Tabron allowed me to work at his church for a youth program. And I'll never forget that. And yeah, I think that was maybe a couple years ago. I worked in that program with him, and I appreciate that, and I never forget the people who have been a blessing to me. So my guest is here. Thank you, Ms. Gadd, for coming in. Bring your chair up. Her story is amazing, as you guys know. Like I just mentioned, I like to bring people on that I think will be a fit for the things that I'm doing. And her story, I think everyone should know about it. Thank you, Ms. Gadd, for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. And so without further ado, I'll let her introduce herself. If you could be so kind and let the viewers know who you are, how you got started, what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so my name is Sarah Gadd. I am running for Congress in Illinois' 1st Congressional District against longtime incumbent Bobby Rush. I'm running as a Democrat. I got into this race because my constituents asked me to. They saw that there was a void in leadership, and they asked if I would be willing to possibly join the race and unseat Bobby Rush, just based on my past experiences and kind of what I've lived and persevered through. A lot of the issues plaguing our district are things that I have personally lived through. And because I have persevered through these things, they felt that I could credibly go to DC and advocate for these issues on a personal level, and also because I have devoted my life to criminal justice reforming and social justice and activism. So I got my start in a jail cell.
Wow.
I was in medical school, and I was hit by a drunk driver my 3rd year. I wanted to become an international ear, nose, and throat surgeon, but during my 3rd year, my life was thrown off course when a person decided to drive drunk and run me off the road, and I woke up 2 weeks later in a hospital bed, unable to walk or speak. The swelling in my brain was so bad that they had to induce a coma, and I literally had to relearn how to walk and speak again. And
wow.
Yeah.
Resilience like no other.
But during the recovery process, I became addicted to prescription opioids. That's how a lot of people become addicted to painkillers, as they're prescribed. They're prescribed the medication, and some people have a genetic predisposition to the disease of addiction, and
wow.
Yeah, when you're prescribed it for an injury, that's how 80% become addicted, and some end up graduating to heroin. I fortunately did not end up escalating to heroin use, but I did end up incarcerated. I was arrested in late 2013 for presenting a bogus prescription at a Walgreens pharmacy, and 6 cops showed up to the Walgreens.
Wow.
Yeah, this was in the city of Chicago, and they took me to the Cook County Jail. I was a first-time minimum security drug offender, nonviolent, but they put me in max because of overcrowding.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was quite an experience. I was sexually assaulted on my first day in there. When I reported it to a correctional officer, I learned the hard way that snitches get stitches.
Wow.
Yeah, I was beaten pretty severely multiple times, and to the point where the jail had to put me on painkillers. That's how severe my injuries were. And
so how long from your accident that you were incarcerated? What was the time period?
It was a little over a year.
So were you fully recovered from the car accident prior to you being incarcerated?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
wow.
I had 3 surgeries on my leg. I had,
wow.
Yeah, I'd undergone occupational and speech therapy to sort of relearn, just relearn how to do basic tasks. And it was devastating. Like, it wasn't even the physical pain that led me down the path of addiction. It was the emotional trauma of falling so far like that and losing everything.
So this was before you went to school, correct?
Before going to law school, yeah.
So you did law school, and then you had the accident.
No, I was in medical school.
Medical school. Okay.
I'm in law school now.
Got it.
Yeah.
Congratulations! Wow, your story is amazing. So from law school, law school, right?
So from medical school,
I'm sorry, your story.
no,
Wow,
that's right.
yeah.
There's a lot of twists and turns.
to the accident to being incarcerated. So you went from a stressful situation after stressful situation. Wow. And now from all of that, your resilience, I'm overwhelmed with I'm happy that I had a chance to meet you. And so from now, after all that being said, and after everything that happened, so now you decided to take a congressional seat.
Yeah.
I mean, run for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
That's amazing.
After I got out of jail, it wasn't easy. Like, I couldn't find a job or a place to live. I was homeless and just kind of bouncing from shelter to shelter and trying to get back on my feet. By the grace of God, this attorney decided she sued the Cook County Jail for me for the injuries I suffered, but she ended up giving me a job too, and that's what really saved me, was the job she gave me.
Wow.
I used the settlement I received from the lawsuit to pay for law school, but it was the job that she gave me, that second chance, that allowed me to do meaningful work and show, hey, even though I've been to jail, I can still contribute to society in a meaningful way, look past my record.
That's awesome.
And that's what, now I'm representing indigent youth and young adult offenders from Chicago's South Side in the very same courtroom that I was a defendant in 8 years ago. And I always plead for mercy on behalf of my clients and tell the judge, like, I was standing in their position 8 years ago.
Awesome.
Give them a chance. Like,
That's
just
awesome.
don't destroy their life and make things so unnecessarily hard for them. Like that, because once you get sucked into that cycle, it's so hard to break.
It's true.
And that's ultimately what made me want to go to law school, was to reform our system and make it easier for people who've been in the system to come out and live meaningful lives. And that's why I'm trying to use my congressional campaign not just as a way to promote myself and my candidacy, but also tackle many of the issues on my platform. So, how candidates do like meet and greets and mixers. We do that, but we have themes. So like we do job fairs for recently incarcerated constituents.
Now has that expired, or is that coming up?
We actually had, at our very first one, it was just supposed to be a mixer. It wasn't even supposed to be a job fair. It was just, we wanted to put recently incarcerated constituents and local businesses in a room just to show them they're human and they deserve a chance. And 27 left employed on the spot.
Bless your heart. Wow.
So now we're doing a full-on job fair and expungement clinic. So we're even having local performers come by.
Now, can you give us the date for that?
January 25th.
Where is that going to be held?
Project Hood on 6330 South Martin Luther King Drive, Pastor Corey Brooks' Community Center.
Okay, I know him.
Yeah.
So do you have a Facebook page in the event that our viewers want to check you out or see upcoming events? Would you be so kind and give it to them?
Yeah, so you can go to my Facebook page at Sarah with an H, R GAD 2020. And my website is sarahgad2020.com. It's Sarah with an H, GAD 2020.com. And you can find all my social media pages on my website too.
Wow. So you have no political experience?
I do. So my constituents asked me if I would run, and so before jumping into this race, it's a big undertaking, I thought, well, I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. and check this out and see if I feel comfortable doing this. So I took an internship with the Drug Policy Alliance, and I was there actually pushing for legislation for my nonprofit, Addiction to Action, which makes life-saving treatment for opioid addiction available in jails and prisons.
Wow.
And I'm trying to make that federal law that correctional facilities are obligated to provide treatment for opioid addiction, because incarceration is fatal for opioid addicts. It lowers their tolerance, and when they get out and relapse, they're so much more likely to overdose. And so I was there fighting for that this summer, and I got to participate in a number of congressional hearings and briefings. I went to dozens of hearings and briefings on Capitol Hill, and I really got to, at the end of the day, our representative was absent from actually all of those hearings. Even one on reparations, which was put on by the Congressional Black Caucus, which Bobby Rush is a ranking member of. And when we're talking about reparations, what district in America really could better benefit and is more deserving of reparations than ours?
I agree.
We have the highest concentration of African American descendants of slavery.
I agree.
And We have the highest Black unemployment rate in the country. 70% of Southside families live below the poverty line. And a lot of this has to do with sort of economic imbalances that stem all the way back to Jim Crow days and slavery and modern day slavery and the new Jim Crow. I mean, let's be real. Our criminal justice system targets people of color and stamps them and leaves them marginalized in a position where it's so hard for them to reintegrate back into society in a meaningful way. So reparations is something that could really help rectify those economic imbalances, and it's an issue that's so important to many First District voters. And to not have representation at that hearing when people flew in from all around the world for that hearing. It was packed. I mean, celebrities. And our own congressman on the committee running the hearing was not there. That stood out to me. And at the end of the day,
as it should have.
Yeah, and I found that I was the one doing the advocating for our community. Like, I was the one doing the advocacy work in those hearings for our constituents. And I was like, you know what? It's not just, I feel more than capable of doing this, but I also feel obligated to, because we don't have a voice right now.
And what better person than someone that, you know, then went through the system, you know, as your story, I'm sure, has awed many people. And, you know, a lot of times, I think people like to, would prefer to look on to someone that then been in their shoes as opposed to someone that's coming from wherever and saying, okay, this is who I am, this, with really no... are you from south side of Chicago?
I wasn't born there, but
Okay.
I've lived there for over a decade.
Okay, and see, even with that being said, that speaks volumes too, because you have walked the streets and you know what it's like to live on the south side, and you know, it's not a walk in the park.
All of this happened, like my accident, being in the Cook County Jail, getting out, being homeless, not being able to find a job, all of that happened in the south side of Chicago.
Wow.
So my community was really there for me, like,
oh, wow.
through all of this.
That's
and so
awesome.
they watched me sort of ascend from rock bottom's basement to rock bottom.
Your story is amazing.
To where I am today. And I'm just, you know, when I was applying to law school, I got into places like Harvard and Columbia, but I wanted to stay in the south side of Chicago. I wanted to stay and work with the people who'd been there for me when I was trying to get back on my feet. And it really hurts. It hurts my soul to see the people around me that I love going through what I was going through during the worst period of my life on a daily basis. Like, it's once you've been through that and you know what it's like you feel the sense of urgency. And I respect Bobby Rush for his service, you know, in the early part of his tenure. I absolutely do, but I just, like, we're up against so many challenges right now, like so many, and we need somebody who's gonna not just show up and vote, but fight and say, hey, like, we need to address the environmental crisis because a child in the south side of Chicago is 8 times more likely to die of asthma because of environmental pollution. Like, that's for a child. Like, that is so heartbreaking. And
it's, you know what, you just touched me, because my son is asthmatic, and like every year, he's 12 years old, and every year we've probably spent Christmas in the hospital because of his asthma. So, wow.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Wow.
You know, and Mr. Rush sits on the Energy Committee. Wow. And, you know, being on the Energy Committee, that's devoted to finding sustainable solutions to this environmental crisis. And it's really, it's killing people. It really is. And when we're talking about people losing their life and their liberty just so recklessly these days, it's like, what are our priorities? Like, what are we doing? At the end of the day, we need to be looking out for our own kind and making sure that, like, these are just the core principles of our democracy: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We've waged a war on human life through our drug war and by not addressing gun violence. And it's more than just restricting access to guns. We need to address this as a public health crisis, because it really is. I mean, we can restrict access to guns all day long. Yes, that will have an impact, you know, as far as if we were to implement a buyback program to get, you know, assault rifles and assault weapons off in the street. But also, we also have to be focusing on rehabilitating people instead of just writing them off. Because when you do that, they're going to have to find a way to survive. And a lot of time, writing them off kind of forces people to resort back to violent crime, and that puts societies in danger. It harms families, it weakens our community, it weakens our economy, and it's better for everybody if we treat people who've made mistakes as just people who've made mistakes, not bad people who deserve to be written off for life. And when we do that, we tend to find that these people go on to do amazing things.
I agree.
And so that's why my campaign is really touting the idea of second chances.
Wow. Because I don't think a lot of people don't realize the effect, as you said, you know, that it has on the children, on the youth, on the kids. Because then from there, it's a reoccurring cycle.
Absolutely.
And so if the kids, and so I have a youth program, and I deal with at-risk youth, and you know, just to hear some of the stories that they, you know, have to endure with their parents, you know, on drugs or wherever, not in home. They don't know if they're going to eat. They're homeless, and it just it's heartbreaking, because it's like, who's really trying to help, you know? And I'm probably sitting 5 feet from you, and I can feel the sincerity in your heart. I mean, I can just feel it. So, you know, I'm out. I'd love to work with you. I love to get on board with you, because, you know, change has to be made. I mean, we can't keep doing the same thing, and then from there we'll get the same results. So until someone steps out and wants to sincerely make a change, then that's when, you know, everybody else, hopefully, you know, will get on board, and it'll become a domino effect. But so often people sit in these positions, and they, you know, they get stuck and don't really pour out to the people. And it, you know, it's just getting worse and terrible, and no help. And like you're saying, you know, you got these people that's pretty much repeating the same cycle, because there's no real help or resources, you know, on the south side and the west side, and so on and so forth. So
I mean, there's so much activism in the south side, but it's not enough to overcome just the damage that has been done over the last few decades. Like, the tough on crime movement was a disaster. I mean, and, you know, Bobby Rush voted for the tough on crime movement, as did most Democrats. They thought they were doing the right thing at the time, but at some point, it's like we realized that was not the right way to go. So once we realized that, we should have stopped it and started to sort of undo the mess we created.
wow.
And, you know, I went to law school to find solutions to our broken system of justice, and I kind of came to a realization that there's no fixing the system, because it's doing exactly what it's designed to do. It just needs to be overhauled completely. But fortunately, Congress has the authority to act. And I always make an analogy between the Civil Rights Act and getting rid of sort of background-related discrimination. And it doesn't have to do with the fact that, you know, just our system disparately targets people of color. It's that the way we criminalize people and write them off for life really does damage to our economy, and that was the basis for the Civil Rights Act. If you read into it, it wasn't that racism is wrong or unjust, it was that racism harmed interstate commerce. Interstate commerce is one of the things that Congress has the authority to act on. And if you look at the damage that this whole idea of permanent criminal records has done to interstate commerce, it's even worse than legal racism.
Well, Ms. Gadd, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for coming out. I'm so happy
for having me.
I made this connection with you, and hopefully I could be an asset to your team. You're doing some amazing things. And again, thank you guys for reaching out. And Les, can you give us your Facebook page again?
Yeah, it is facebook.com/Sarah with an H, R, Gadd, G-A-D 2020.
Alrighty, guys. Until next time, thank you guys for tuning in, and check out Ms. Gadd. You guys heard the story. Now we have to do the footwork. See you guys next week.